time gets, hey, we're a week late, okay? We snuck up on us, the football season. We missed last week leading into Missouri getting started, but here we are for Kansas and to talk about that first week of Missouri football here in Kansas City. I'm Mick Shaffer of KSHB 41 at KSHB 41. He's Dion Clisso of PrepsKC at the PrepsKC World Headquarters, right,
Yes.
Dion?
Yes. Well, it's also the world headquarters of the swim program at Blue Spring South as well.
Oh, really?
The boosters. No, we're a freshman swimming. We're very much into JV swimming around here, so it's exciting times.
We only have one state to talk about from last week. We can talk some high school swimming as well. This is your deal. Drive the boat, baby.
Well, it's kind of fun. I mean, I don't have anybody on Friday nights, and if Mick has seen the picture of him flexing, you know why. He is skinny, 6 foot, about 110 pounds. So he was made to be in the pool, and that's where he is, and it's a lot of fun. And I will say this, and something I discovered this morning. I just thought about this morning. I've been doing this for like 30 years plus, and for the last 15 or so, it's been more me sitting in the office doing this kind of stuff, and not necessarily at games. I get out the games when I can. COVID kind of stopped that for a couple of years because nobody was getting out to games as much. I've gotten out to a few games. You know, one of the reasons I love doing this job was being around high school kids and with their sports. And if you're timing a swim meet, you're around high school kids and you're talking to them and they're doing their thing. And it was really enjoyable. Just being in the middle of it. And it's kind of like being on the sideline of a high school football game. I mean, in that sense. So it's high school sports are great. That's why we're here. That's why we're talking. And it's a lot of fun. And whether it's swimming, which my son is doing, or football, which your son is doing, whether it's a low level JV or if it's, Mill Valley, 5-time state champion, it's fun. And it's great to see these kids achieve and get out and do what they love with their friends.
That's the biggest deal, right? Team memories, all that stuff. That's it. I mean, whether you've won state titles or you've won one game a year, right? 10 years from now, you're on the same type stories, right? It's going to be on the bus rides over, right? The one guy that forgot his shoulder pads, right? Or the hijinks that happened in the locker room, or that funny thing that happened in practice, all that stuff. Everybody's going to have those same stories. Of course, you want to win, and that's a big chunk of it all. But when it comes down to it, you talk to all these guys that Tom Brady just retired. All these guys that finally hang it up after playing the sport until they're 35, 40 years old, and to a man, they all say, I miss the time in the locker room, the bonding there, the jokes, all that stuff. That's what I think about first. So.
And for someone like my son who, played rec ball, did a little club swimming to the point we had to convince him to do a meet because he didn't want to do a meet. Now he's been to a big meet. Blue Spring South and Rockhurst hosted a big meet. And if you don't know anything about high school swimming, this may stun you. Rockhurst is really good.
No way.
They've won like 13 of the last 15 in class 2 in Missouri. Really good program. And they look the part in swimming too. They look like a top-notch swimming program. So they were there. Lisa West was there. All the Lee Summits were there. All the North Kansas City were there. Which Staley's very good. Lisa West is very good. And we went to that on Saturday. It's right by my house, so it's really nice and convenient to go to. And he'd never really been to a meet like that. And we watched that, and then he had his meet on Tuesday. And so he's never really been a part of a team. And he didn't really understand when we were trying to tell him he needed to swim. He didn't understand that high school swimming was like a team sport. He thought it was like club where you just go and swim with your group, and then you go swim in a meet and that kind of thing. You could be swimming with somebody who's 4 years older than you and 4 years younger than you, depending on your skill level. And he's finding that out. And I think it's kind of interesting to see that, I've told this story many a time to a very good, the story with like 20 years ago, I was talking to a very talented Power 5 Division I female basketball player. And they went back to the Final Four 2 years in a row. And I said to her, how fun is this going to back-to-back Final Fours with your teammates? And she goes, well, it's fun, but my AAU team's better. And I looked at her and I said, they're never going to hang your AAU jersey anywhere.
No.
Playing for your school, playing for your town. That's what I mean. It's awesome.
You have strangers cheering you on at high school meets, right? And and right, as opposed to AU, or you just got your parents there, maybe.
Yeah.
And then
Heck, I'm the stranger.
you have so many people that you know in life, whether it be teachers or friends or just acquaintances in that school that are there cheering you on. There's nothing like high school sports.
No, and it's, you know, I'm the guy who's there cheering on these. Like, I've gotten to know these kids in the last couple of weeks, but the first meeting I was like, hey, you know, you cut this time off, you cut that time off. And they're looking at me like, who is this guy talking to me about my times? And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I'm a fan, I'm a parent, I pay attention, I'm a sports guy, so I'm not just going to go there and watch. I'm going to have my sheet. I'm going to see what you swam before. I'm going to know what you swam faster, and congratulate you when you do.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's get to it. You mentioned Rockhurst. Let's start with the Rockhurst here. A 24-12 win over St. Pius. I was going to start at St. Pius no matter what. I was impressed, by the way, by the Warriors and how they hung with Rockhurst, a Class 3 program last year, but really a Class 2 size school that is now playing Class 5 football in Missouri. I hate it. It's an overcorrection, I think, of maybe the advantages that private schools have. So you get Anthony Simone and the fellas jump up to Class 5 and having to play. I think they should be in Class 3, still mopping the floor with people. But they showed me, at least, Rocker's Class 6, by the way, that they can compete in Class 5 and win some games once they get to the playoffs, because that'll be the last time they play a team that big, right? Because Benton and Lafayette,
St. James is 5A in Kansas, but they're not.
But a lot of times that's almost
not
like
as big.
Class 4 size in Missouri. It's a little different, but yeah.
No, the one thing I will say about St. Pius, and their numbers would have put, that there was no multiplier, they would have been in 3 this year, but with their success, they bumped up 2 classes. If you put them on the sidelines next to, and I'm not going to put any other, several Class 5 schools on the Missouri side.
Although I have a lot more out, right?
A lot more out, a lot bigger athletes in match.
They shouldn't be punished for that. They're being punished for winning and getting as many kids out. I mean, they figured something out, and Missouri says, "Oh, no, you've done that too well. Here you go, moving up 2 classes." Joke.
And then Cardinal Ritter's up 2 classes as well, like them, for winning state titles. They're up as far as they can win. They can't go anymore.
And the small schools get punished way more, obviously, than the big schools, because you can't take a Rockhurst up any higher, right? You get to these Class 5, you move the Class 5 schools up 1 class, they're not noticing it because it's about the same. So,
no, I will say this: I think that Pius looked good.
A great game by the Warriors.
Yeah,
I saw Rockhurst a lot this summer. That's a really good team.
Yeah, they may not have a game-breaking athlete, but don't let them line up and try and think you're going to stop them running downhill, because when they wanted to impose their will on Pius, they imposed their will. And I think that's going to be their calling card this year at Rockhurst. They're going to line up. But Charlie Luce, their quarterback, can move and throw and do things. Ethan Hansen, good quarterback, graduated. They've got one now who maybe is just a little bit more athletic and can do a little bit more. So that kind of opens up their offense. Defensively, that's where they lost a lot of guys, and they're filling a lot of big-time holes. So that's where they're gonna struggle. And you saw Hudson Bailey in that Pius offense move the ball down the field and do some things. Rock toughened up inside the 20s, which is, they lost to Greg Oder as their defensive coordinator, so they went out and got Vinny Careswell from Lee Summit West. Kelly's just putting together the all-star staff. It's like whoever wants to come on, and he's just getting all his buddies.
Like Nick Saban, who would grab Lane Kiffin or Bill O'Brien whenever he wanted, just between jobs. Hey, come here and coach the best college football team up there.
So great kickoff game last week. Great game. Yeah. I think it was everything everybody hoped. Great crowd. It was fun to watch. I was
worried, man. I thought Rockhurst would wipe the floor with them. And by the way, 120 kids out for St. Pius. What do they have? Like 150 total boys in that school?
Yeah, probably. I mean,
maybe that. I mean, I think their numbers are right around 300 total. I mean, it's just great job. Just the participation, which is such a huge deal. Got to get the buy-in from the kids. And that's, a lot of times the biggest battle for these coaches is to get the kids out there, get the buy-in, because football's hard, man. Even when you win, football's hard. It's long hours, and you only play like 1/4 of the year. You practice the rest of the time. It's different than a lot of other sports. So
am I allowed to have the Gatorade, or do I have to take the label off the inside?
Right. I'm sponsored by Adidas here on that. Hey, I got a question here, Dion. Is Blue Springs back? Is the town of Blue Springs back where you're at right now? Blue Springs, a dominant win in week 1, a shutout win, and then Blue Springs South should have beat the defending state champs.
I think that they are getting better.
Getting
I think
back.
that I think Blue Springs South maybe has a little bit better. I think that they're a little bit better, more maybe ahead, I think is the word to use at Blue Springs. But Blue Springs went out and blanked Lee Summit West. Now Lee Summit West is very young. They're playing a lot of young players, so that they are maybe not they are not the Lee Summit West they were last year. They're in very much a rebuild mode. But that's a good win for Blue Springs to come out and get a dominant win like that. And you talked to Coach Paulson, and he said it after the game to the reporter. He said it to me in an interview. There's a lot of stuff they got to work on, but it was a good confidence builder for them. South, on the other hand, they had played.
Blue Springs South was the best 1-9 team ever last year, right?
Yeah. Well,
I mean, every game they were losing by this much.
The guy who would have told you that was possibility on Friday night was one Andy Learman, who's been on the Blue Springs South bus since last year, because he told me last year, he goes, no, Blue Springs South played us better scheme wise, athlete wise than almost anybody outside of Rockhurst or Lee Summit North, the upper echelon teams, just in the regular season type stuff. And he was not stunned at all. In fact, when I talked to him previewing the Liberty North game, I asked him, I said, "Are you feeling okay?" He goes, "I asked for a defibrillator on the sidelines the next time we play them." But no, they did a really good job. They gave up a field goal drive in the first half and a touchdown drive. And that was it that the Blue Springs South defense gave up. And they were down 9-0. Came out the second half, hit a big run by the tailback. I think it was KJ Hawkins that got him first. And then they ended up with 3 big runs by the other tailback and Aiden Wilhelm, the quarterback, broke big plays. And then defensively shut down Liberty North up until the final 3 minutes after they scored the touchdown to go up 20-12. Really just kind of dominated them. And then when Liberty North needed it, and this is right out of the mouth of Alan Wilmus, the coach, he said, looking back, he goes, maybe they should have done a different defense in terms of their zone and how they positioned it. He said, but Liberty North ran a great play with a great route that made the safety have to just check a second off the underneath guy, freed the outside guy, and Tillman Martin hit him for a big touchdown. And then defensively, Liberty North late in that game, Blue Springs South is in a spot where it's 3rd and long. They get a first down, it's probably over. If they run the ball, they probably punt. But the kicker for Liberty North is outstanding, 55, 60 yards. I mean, he could kick it from anywhere. And they were worried if they punted it and they got any kind of return, it was only 1 or 2 plays, that they would be right back where they're at. So they figured if they go for the first down, Wilhelm's rolling out. I can't remember his last name, Motai, the stud offensive lineman for Liberty North, was on defense. And he gets to Wilhelm and he gets hit and he fumbles. And talking to both coaches, and they both said the same thing. If that's an NFL game and they've got 30 ways to replay it, it might be called a forward pass or a fumble. Yeah. It was just a 50-50 play. And that's how it was called. And there was no, complaining about officiating from either coach. They were just like, that's the play that happened. They got the ball back. They kick a field goal. They win the game. Yeah. And Blue Springs South was right there. But that sophomore, junior dominated team against a junior, senior dominated team. And that's the difference that you see. I'd love to see them play again. I'd love to see them not in the same district this year. But I think it's definitely says that Blue Springs South is definitely a team to keep an eye on for not just this year, but for the next few years going forward.
All right, hear me out. Win of the night, Lee Summit, maybe. We got a brand new coach. You haven't had a winning record since 2018, and you go out and you beat what is typically a very good Liberty squad, 40-27.
That was bringing a lot of people back and was a lot of people's dark horse to kind of step up and do some stuff. Liberty threw 4 interceptions, but not all interceptions happen in a vacuum. You're not throwing against nobody.
Hey, man, you got to catch it, right? They got
those
turnovers aren't just this lucky thing all the time.
Quarterback played well. They've got good receivers at Lee Summit. Todd Miller, the coach, comes in with 4 state championships in Colorado, so he's won a few football games. Eric Thomas did a great job at Lee Summit. He moves on to Jeff City, his alma mater. And it's a different voice. And sometimes that is not that the voice before was a bad voice. It's just a different voice and maybe some different ideas. And they definitely in week 1, and guess what? They play Blue Springs this week. So the 2 teams that come up with 2 big wins get to play each other in week 2.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, good point there. All right, so we have Rock escaping, Liberty North escaping, Oak Park was left for dead, right, against Staley. They come back and get a win, but barely. I know it's just 1 week, right? And we don't want to read too much into this, but once we get into this season, we'll look back and say, okay, there's maybe some parity at the top in big class in Missouri on the Kansas City side. Now, at least up north, they had a dominant win, a lot of penalties in that game over Ray Peck, but a shutout win there. I'm kind of leaving them to the side for now because they return a lot and they're really, really good. But those three teams, I don't think maybe we thought they would struggle that much in victories.
Well, I think that there is. I think that Rockers and Liberty North are closer to the pack than they've been, and the pack is closer to them. I mean, I think you talk about teams like Blue Springs and Lee Summit, and even a team like Park Hill, they got to win over Columbia Rockbridge in overtime. A Columbia Rockbridge team that returns 13 starters, including a quarterback who is a FCS, FBS type guy. I don't know if he's a Power 4. I have to change my vernacular. Power 4 plus 2.
Group of
Power
five,
4 plus
Power
2.
4.
Plus 2, Oregon State and Washington State.
Power 4 plus.
Yeah.
It's like it's when you start the sixth inning, but you don't get an out. You pitch 6+ innings.
So I think that Park Hill's a team to keep an eye on. North Kansas City beat Columbia Battle, which is usually a pretty solid program as well. Those two teams play each other. It's funny how teams that did well last week are playing each other, and we've got some good matchups there. But no, there's a lot of depth in sixth this year. I think that you got to stay healthy because I think teams are going to beat each other up. There just isn't the outside of Lee Summit North, which has got all the kind of marquee talent. Liberty North does not necessarily have the name talent that we know. There's no Melvin Laster starting since he's a freshman. You know, Keelan Smith, Jay Sean Ross. I mean, big time, not just Power 5, but we're talking Alabama, we're talking Nebraska, we're talking, those places like that. And so it's definitely a little bit closer from the top. But we're going to find out about Lee Summit North this week. They're playing Mill Valley. Same with Mill Valley. Lee Summit North was only up 7-0 on 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks. Yeah. That they've got Lee Summit North has Staley this week, so we're going to find out about Staley and where they were and that kind of thing. And
Mill Valley's old defensive coordinator plays right before Mill Valley,
and they had a good game plan against Oak Park. Yeah, I mean they had a good game plan against them, and maybe just kind of ran out of gas. Staley's kind of a bit in a rebuilding mode and kind of working on their depth, and so Class 6 is definitely in a spot where there's not going to be a lot of gimmies on Friday night in Class 6 in Missouri.
Right. No, never is. All right, let's start with let's do your Remax Big Three. We'll stay on the Missouri side, and then we'll celebrate Kansas starting up on Friday. But on the Missouri side, Liberty and Liberty North. Already we've got a rivalry game like this already?
Yeah, they have played this one pretty early the last few years. It's been about week 2 kind of consistently. And I don't know if that's something that the administration wants, like, let's do it, let's get out of the way and go on with our rest of our season, or if that's just the way the scheduling pocket has fallen. But no, Liberty's definitely looking to bounce back. I mean, that's not a shocking loss. At least it's a solid team, but I think a game that most everybody would have thought Liberty would have won last week. And now they've got to, kind of pick it up, clean up some mistakes, and you're facing a team that the last thing you really want them to do is get scared and be like, oh, wow, we need to focus on everybody, because now you got a Liberty North team that, has played almost, 3.5 seasons easily the last few years, going, state championship, semifinal state championship game, down to, you play those extra games. Those underclassmen have gotten more practices. So no, that's a good one. I think that we're going to find out. Liberty North brings back a lot, especially on their defense. And we'll see how they do and see if they can use some of the game plan that Blue Springs South used to kind of slow down Liberty North.
Yeah. All right, let's do Platte County and Grain Valley. That's one of your Remax Big Three games of the week.
Playing for what I think is the 40th time in the last 5 or 6 years. I think they
like
every third week, it seems like twice a year. Last year in the quarterfinals, they were in quarterfinals in 4 for like 3 or 4 years, and then they were in quarterfinals in 5. They've been in district championship, 1 or 2 years here or there. It's funny. Last year, Grain Valley went up there in the regular season. They were the veteran team. They had Sal Calderell at quarterback. They had Ty Williams at running back. I asked Bill Utz if, his defensive backs had recovered from trying to tackle Ty Williams in the second half of that game. And because you could see those kids making business decisions when Ty was coming downhill. And he actually talked about Ty for a minute and said, got to meet that kid. He was legit all the way around, real deal. Great talent, great kid, worked hard. And so now this year, Green Valley's the one's graduated to everybody and it's got some young players, whereas Platte County's got Rocco Marriott and Jack Oots, the coach's son at tight end, and some really good players out there as well. So it's kind of a reversal this year as the visiting team is the more experienced. Platte County rolled when Crispin, it got away from Crispin early, and Coach Oots said, he said that when it gets steamrolling like that, sometimes you don't get a chance to work on things you want to work on and get plays in and do things. So, he's looking to see what he can get more out of it. And Green Valley got off to the slow start and then just pulled away from Raytown, which is, just what a good David Alley team will do. They'll get better as the game goes on. They'll get better as the season goes on. So it's just fun when they get together. I mean, Green Valley was all over them last year in the quarterfinal. I think they're up 21-3. And then they found themselves down 24-21. And Ty Williams, who had to sit on the bench with a little bit of a tweaked ankle, came in and he got the ball down the last drive and they kicked the field goal and Green Valley went on to the semis. So no, it's definitely a rivalry that's not nasty. Programs not love, but respect each other, look forward to playing each other. Kids, very similar kids, coaching staffs that are veteran and go back to playing each other when David Alley was at Raytown South and they were in the same conference, playing against each other. So no, it's Platte County Green Valley is one of the more fun new rivalries in the last 5 to 7 years.
And the final one on the Missouri side, you talked about it, Lee Summit and Blue Springs. All right, you guys got big wins in week 1. Go prove it in week 2. We're going to pitch you guys against each other.
From the 80s and 90s, this was like one of the biggest games of the year always. Before they started splitting off. There's the classic tale of Wayne McGinnis. Wayne McGinnis coming over. I think it was Coach Purdy, who was the coach at Lee Summit at the time. I don't think it was Coach Walmsgons yet. I think he was still over at Shawnee Mission West, where they're sitting there at Lee Summit High School Stadium, no Blue Springs. Warming up, no Blue Springs. Warming up still, no Blue Springs. 6:55, no Blue Springs. They look over in the neighborhood. Here comes Blue Springs walking in from the neighborhood. They parked the buses in the neighborhood, walked in as a unit, sent the captains out, flipped the coin, and went and played the game. And Blue Springs crushed them.
Jeez.
I mean, stuff like that. That's old school Blue Springs stuff. Yeah. I mean, that happened before I was even at the Examiner, which is 30 plus years ago. So there's a lot of, this is a tasty matchup for anybody over the age of probably 55 or 60 who played for either one of these schools, because this is what you measured yourself against in the late 80s, early 90s as Wayne McGinnis and Coach Purdy were at these schools. So good to see both of them playing well. Fun one in week 2. That is one school that has never come off. They've been in different conferences as they've opened new schools and moved up and down. Blue Springs and Lee Summit always play. They always play. So
they've always played.
Yep, they always play.
And by the way, we're down a suburban conference this year, right?
Yeah, we're back to 4.
Kicked one out.
Well, the word I heard at first, they liked it because it allowed more scheduling freedom, and you were in with teams more like you.
Silver's gone, right? We picked out
Silver's gone. Silver's gone. But then I think 2 years of, 5 teams in a conference, and there's a 3-way tie for the conference championship because they don't break ties. And then when you go to all conference and there's only 5 teams, and you're looking around going,
can we fill these teams?
Yeah. Your honorable mention of your freshman who never played varsity. You're like, what?
Yeah. All right, let's get to it. Kansas starting up this week. Man, September 6th starting up. About time. It's just Thanksgiving
calendar shift.
There's a lot of years where Missouri plays 2 games in August. This year they barely got 1 in, and so that's just how the calendar hits and all that. Kansas should have a 9th regular season game. They don't. We start on that one too. But here we go. Kansas kicking off on Thursday. Friday night. I didn't see any Kansas Thursday.
It's right? Usually there is.
Shawnee, Missions, and the Olathes, but they're not doing it.
We had a Thursday start in Missouri. Park Hill South and Grandview played because Grandview's track isn't done yet, so they moved the game to Park Hill South. In fact, Missouri now allows you to play on Thursdays, and in St. Louis there were like 7 games, and volleyball, everything. People are scheduling all kinds of stuff on Thursday, but no Thursday Kansas game. I usually like to send someone out to a Thursday Kansas game, and
I think I went out to Shawnee Mission East Gardner last year at Shawnee Mission North.
The
not sure.
schedules, I think, are done way before the Chiefs schedule are done.
I was
But I
gonna
wonder if
say,
they,
everybody maybe just wants to watch the Chiefs.
I think maybe they're thinking if it's that weekend, the way
They
things have been
are
going the
gonna,
last couple of
usually their
years.
schedules come out like in March for high schools, which they can always, I mean, they always move. I think Mill Valley at one time had 0 Thursday night games. Then they went to 2 Thursday night games this year. Now they're back to 1 for now, but that can always change. All right, let's get to it here. Let's begin the Eastern Kansas League in your Remax Big Three. You have St. Thomas Aquinas hosting Blue Valley West. The 4A state champs. They're up in 5A now, Dion. And Blue Valley West, you know, the Blue Valleys seems like whatever year they kind of take turns on who's going to be the best. I think Blue Valley West thinks, especially with quarterback Tate Nagy back, that they can be the best of that 5-team district.
Yeah, they've got a lot back on that team, and he's, you know, anytime you have a 2-year starter at quarterback, you know, beyond the fact that his dad's the offensive coordinator and Patrick Mahomes comes in watching play, you know, take those intangibles out of there. Anytime you have a 2nd-year starter who's got ability and can throw it, but you talk to anybody who's played against him on defense, you've got to keep him in the pocket or else he's just going to kill you because
He
he can
plays
throw
like
it.
Mahomes, man. He'll have a 30-second play. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
he'll just run around and just tire you out. Wait till somebody's open, or wait for a gap for him to run, because he's usually the fastest dude on the field too.
But defensively, they bring a lot back too. So that's a pretty experienced team. Aquinas, not only did they lose seniors, but they lost that whole senior group, even with the injuries they had, was the fill-in group. Now it's Aquinas, and they've got good players. It's just they don't have that Friday night experience, and that's where you talk to Coach Dreiling. That's where he's really kind of saying, "Hey, you know, we got to find out about these guys." And that being said, you know what Aquinas did last year to win a state championship after losing to Rockhurst and losing the players they did.
Yeah.
If you didn't think that Coach Dreiling and his staff, you know, sometimes coaches can win, I don't know, 7, 8 state titles, and you think, well, you know, they have a lot of good kids, so that's what. No, those guys can coach, and they run a great program, and they really do. And I don't know, he could maybe coach his own kid, and I don't know what he's even doing these days. Oh, yeah, that's right, he's the head coach at Utah State. So I mean, they can coach at Aquinas, and they're always ready to play. I think it's a great game. They played each other the last couple of years, the first week of the season, and that game has gone Aquinas' way. I think in 2020, Blue Valley West beat them, and it was a close game. It's been a close game pretty much the last couple of years. So good game to start off with. It's a good clash of styles, 2 good programs, and that one just jumps off the page at you when you look at the first week. There's a few of them. One of them, you know, there's some that aren't even Big 3 games for us this week, but that are still really good games as well.
Yeah, Olathe North at Shawnee Mission Northwest in a battle of Sunflower League programs. Shawnee Mission Northwest, this is the class they've been talking about for a few years now.
Yeah.
They're seniors now. They've been really high on this class. A lot of these guys have been playing since their sophomore year. Olathe North, they lose a lot. They always rebuild a lot. And listen, I have to imagine it's going to be an emotional night too at Shawnee Mission North, considering the Northwest athlete, the football player who passed away during the off season. I'm sure they're going to honor him in some way. So that'll be a lot of emotions, right? In this Olathe North Shawnee Mission Northwest game.
Yeah, and like you said, that this is the class that Shawnee Mission Northwest has been waiting on. Talk to Coach McCartney. He talks about the size that Shawnee Mission Northwest has. They're
They got a big old line. Yeah,
they're
a couple
big
guys
old
going to
line.
play college. Yep.
And the quarterbacks, I think this is his 3rd year starting. So you know they got that experience. And these 2 teams play good games against each other. I mean, a couple of years ago, you had TJ Porter and Maliko Adis sprinting up and down the field, you know, track meet breaking out. So they're 2 well-coached teams. Bo Black does a great job at Shawnee Mission Northwest, and same with Coach McCartney there at Olathe North. And you talk about, I had said the same thing to him. Oh, you only have 4 and 5 starters come back. You find people. There's always somebody at Olathe North.
Boys, there's all those Darren Sproles clones down there, man. Those kids. They might not be the tallest in the room, but they can fly and they're tough.
I think the thing that they don't get enough credit for, it's like they always have the tailback. They find a good enough quarterback. They always have good linebackers. Their offensive line, which is never huge, they're athletic and they know how to run their system. And they will take guys you wouldn't know they were offensive linemen and make them. And you guys at Mill Valley, you've seen them.
No, they've been huge the last 2 years.
They've been the last 2 years they were big, but they also mix in.
Yeah.
They also mix in guys who aren't that big, and they run their stuff so well. So the good Sunflower League matchup to kick things off.
Yep. And lastly here, Baser Linwood and Leavenworth. Why is that on your radar this week?
Well, Leavenworth played mostly sophomores last year. Their numbers are up, and most of those sophomores are juniors. And the one thing that Coach Station said to me is that they won't have to play as many sophomores this year because their numbers are up, and they're able to fill in those spots. They've got to kind of figure out how to win games. I don't know if Baser is the prescription for that week one, but it'll be a good test
Baser,
of that
another
offense.
team that's up in 5A this year.
Yeah, and the Coach Stahlbaumer, when I did a virtual media day with him, had a great line because they were placing a lot on offense, and they were in practice, and the offense wasn't very good. The offense was very good, and then they got to the jamboree, and then they were able to move the ball and score, and they figured out, oh, that's right, because we got like 7 or 8 back on defense, and our defense is pretty good. That was their problem. They were going up against their own defense, and so he felt a little bit better about his offense after the jamboree. But no, that UKC is last year was a pretty good league. This year is going to be a pretty good league again. And I think that, if you're Leavenworth, this is a good chance for you to kind of go in those sophomores that are now juniors, get a little bit better, and go play a Baser team in a setting that's always good, and find out where you're at.
Yeah. Now a couple more on the Kansas side. I like the Shawnee Mission East Lawrence Free State game. These are a couple teams under the radar, maybe on different levels. One, Lawrence Free State. People were surprised, but I wasn't. I think they were 7-5 last year, maybe 7-3 last year, and they were picked second in 6A by one of the polls in Kansas.
Yeah.
Kansas pregame poll, and they return a lot, especially up front on offense and defense. The lines there, I think they get challenged for the Sunflower League. And Shawnee Mission East was a sneaky, competitive school last year, competitive team, only 3 wins, but they had some close losses. They got a guy heading them up in Mark Simino who knows what he's doing. They're running the flex bone, right? So it's Syracuse zone defense. It's always kind of odd to prepare for, and if you don't know what's coming, you can get hurt by it. So I think that's a team on the rise. I like that matchup.
Last time I think Shawnee Mission had a flex bone offense, they were going to state championship games.
And Dustin Delaney, yeah, exactly.
So I mean,
that's I give them all. I was out at Eudora a couple of weeks ago. I was giving Coach Steffens a hard time out there. I'm like, you're throwing a little bit too much for the flex bone. They're gonna take your card, okay? But it seems like all those guys have worked under Delaney at some point, or under Dreiling, or both at this point. So I like that.
I like Coach Semino, what he's doing there, and definitely Free State. You talked to a lot of people. That's the team. People were like, "Hey, they could be sneaky, really good."
Yeah, yeah. You pay attention to the Mill Valleys and the Gardners and the Olathe Norths of the Sunflower League. Watch out for the Firebirds too.
Yeah, that's definitely one that the other one I want to say is St. James and
Bishop Miege.
Right.
Right out of that.
Yeah, and so Tyson Beshore moves over from Spring Hill, the quarterback at
another team that's up in 5A, St. James.
Yeah, and they've got a group that played a lot last year's underclassmen. Coach Ranke really likes that group. And John Holmes likes the group he's got. He got Marco Rodriguez back. He got a starting quarterback who's back, who's fantastic. Third year. So he's one of those guys to watch, especially, we did our radio show and talked about elite quarterbacks for our elite team. And definitely, and that's one of those exciting things we can talk about here as we finish up, as our elite team that we're going to have at the end of the year, the PrepsKC McCarthy elite team. Great of them to step up and sponsor this team. And it's only 28 guys. And that includes long snapper, kicker, punter, returner, only one quarterback. There's no second team. So it's going to be interesting how it comes together. And we're going to highlight the different position groups each week. We start with quarterbacks this week. Depending on when we get this up, it'll be up on Wednesdays every week. Cole Young and I've got a little podcast that goes with it as well. So it's definitely something that we're very excited about, and we'll be talking about all year long. And the question is simple: are you elite? Are you the best of the best? And it's not about stars. It's not about offers. It's about what you do on a Friday night, because there are plenty of players who go on to have great college careers, who get all kinds of offers, get all kinds of stars, but on high school fields aren't the dominant player, aren't the ones who are making the plays. Either they're a project, or maybe their motor isn't running where it should be at the high school level. You can have the measurables and you can go on to be a great player in college, and who knows, pros, you may be a late bloomer, or you need the right coaching. to get you motivated. But you know, you could be at Adrian. We'll throw Cole's team out there. You could be at Adrian playing quarterback, and if you're the guy and you make it happen,
Sure.
you got a shot.
Yeah. Yeah. One more game from the EKL. It's Blue Valley at Blue Valley Southwest. I'm intrigued by this one. Southwest, of course, loses a lot, but they're coming off a dominant season, their best season in school of history. I feel like that program's up and running to where like they're not going to fall off too much, if at all. And then Blue Valley returns a ton. Dion, the team that made it to the 6A semifinals last year, and they're dropping down to 5A.
Yeah, Blue Valley comes in loaded. And there's a lot of expectations on Blue Valley. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, these are good talent, probably the best talented group they've had in a long time. And they're dropping down to 5A. I don't know if that's easier or harder, depending on how you look at it. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if there's
years, 6A's been deeper.
6A's been deeper, but
5A's deeper this year.
Yeah, 5A.
I mean, one of those years, Mill Valley was better in winning state. They were probably better than the 6A champ that year. I can't remember who it was. I believe, well, they were, because it was Manhattan who beat Gardner by a point in overtime, and Mill Valley beat Gardner by like 3 touchdowns. Last year, the 6A was deeper than obviously Gardner was better than Mill Valley. This year, I don't know the champ wise who's gonna be better, but deeper wise, with you have Aquinas, you have St. James, you have Blue Valley, you have Baser Linwood, you have Blue Valley North, all coming back into 5A.
On top of really, Spring Hill and DeSoto, who are still there.
So you're still there, along with Mill
Valley. You're 7-10, you're
Southwest.
8-9. You're 7-10, 8-9 first round games, or even 6-11.
You're gonna have 9, 10 plus teams on the east side out of 16 with a pulse, with visions and designs and capabilities of knocking anybody off. Yeah,
no doubt. I think it's going to be an interesting year in that sense, and I like the depth in 6 too. I mean, I think I think they're all very well, and there's going to be some sneaky depth down in 4A too. We didn't talk about Lewisburg or anybody like that, and that's a team to keep an eye on. They bring back some dudes. Paola, it's always quiet on the Paola front. You don't know exactly what's going on down there, but they always show up and play tough. So it's going to be a fun year. I think there's a lot of good teams. There's a lot of parity. There's a lot. I think the floor on a lot of teams is gone up because we're probably all the way through COVID. Even in the inner city, you're seeing teams that used to struggle to get 20 kids have 40 kids.
Yeah.
And so you're hearing numbers are up everywhere. Now, that's 2 things. COVID is beyond us. And I don't know, the football team in town's pretty good. So your casual kid wants to play.
That's true.
Get out there and be, I don't know whether they want to be Patrick Mahomes, or they want to be Travis Kelce or Chris Jones, or they want to be able to date Taylor Swift. I'm not sure what their motivation is. There's all those examples live at Arrowhead Stadium. So
football's the best sport, right? For a lot of these programs, even at the high school level, there are 25 starting positions, right? If you count punter and kicker and long snapper, and then when you throw the special teams out there, you're going to have 40 kids see the field every night, right? And name another sport where you can do that, right? Basketball might be 7, right? Baseball might be 12. But football, and you can be tall, you can be short, you can be skinny, you can be fat, you can be fast, you can be slow, all types of body types. And that's why I think it's such a great sport, and why people are so attracted to it and go to Friday night football games, and then check out PrepsKC during the games and after the games, and check out 41. We'll have an array of highlights, full wrap, and Dion will be on the show on Under the Lights coming up on Friday night. I gotta do some Chiefs coverage here in a moment, so we're gonna end this thing, Dion. But hey, we're up and we're a little bit late. Okay, we're on Kansas' schedule. We were on Missouri's, but maybe we'll go a week longer to make up for it when it's all said and done.
Many weeks longer. They wanted us to keep going. You won't do it.
You want us to keep going. Show me the money. All right, for Dion, I'm Mick. We'll see you next time on Snap Tackle Pod.